You're listening to Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill Gaming Podcast. Here's your host, John Wall.
It's July 25th, 2024, and welcome to another episode of Midlife Side Quest, the Over the Hill video game podcast. My name is John Wall, and every Thursday morning I bring you the latest video game impressions, industry news, and tales of a Gen X geek delivered to you in about 15 minutes. To ensure that you never miss an episode, you can subscribe to the show on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And it would be great if you left a review while you're there, because that helps to spread the word about the show. I am very happy that you have tuned in today, because on this episode, I'm going to be talking about Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. But first, I'm sending out this week's positive vibes to Bethesda Game Studios and Blizzard. Both of these studios announced recently, this past week, that they have voted to unionize, and I think that that is a long overdue step in the games industry. The stories of developer exploitation have been rampant in the industry for decades. And if this is the start of a trend of trying to end that, then I am all for it. And it sounds like this would include the entire team. A lot of the unions so far have been like QA teams, but this includes designers, artists, engineers, like the whole shebang. Now, as a union member for over 2 decades, I know that they aren't perfect and there can be a lot of issues with union leadership. This isn't going to solve every problem in the games industry. Some of the people in charge of the union sometimes don't always have the best interest of the workers in mind. But I do think, especially in this industry, in the games industry, that this is going to be a good thing to get workers treated more fairly. And it also sounds like Microsoft is recognizing this step and is willing to work with them. So that is good as well. So congrats to both of those teams and good luck. Alrighty, so as we reach the end of the Nintendo Switch's life, it's pretty clear that they're holding on to some of their big blockbuster games for the launch of their next hardware, which presumably will be next year at some point. We'll likely see the next big 3D Mario game, the next big Pokemon sequel around the time that the Switch 2 hits shelves. But that doesn't mean that there isn't anything to play in the meantime. In addition to some new games like Mario and Luigi Brothership and Super Mario Party Jamboree this year, Nintendo has been bombarding us, it feels like, with remakes and remasters of some of their older games, like Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door, which I talked about very recently and enjoyed quite a bit, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, and the game that Christina and I have been playing this past week, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I've been a big fan of this series since the beginning, but I never played this particular game, which was originally titled Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, because it was only available on the 3DS. And while I did own a 3DS, I just have never been a huge player of Nintendo's handheld systems. I just always prefer playing on a television, so it passed me by. So I was super excited to see it get a Switch release, and after playing through most of it, we're on the last world right now, I think it is absolutely worth picking up, especially for fans like me who didn't experience it the first time around. Since I know most of you go to a Luigi's Mansion game for the plot, for the story. This time around, the dark moon, which hangs in the sky over Evershade Valley, has shattered into 6 pieces, causing all of the ghosts around to become very hostile. And Professor Egad once again enlists the help of Luigi to go around and collect all these fragments to restore peace to the valley and capture any nasty spirits who get in his way with his trusty Poltergust 5000. It's pretty serious stuff. So gameplay-wise, it's going to be pretty familiar to fans of the series. Each level is broken up into about 5 or 6 missions, including a boss fight, and Luigi must explore the mansion, completing objectives while searching for all these moon fragments. What's really neat and different about this particular installment is that instead of one big mansion that you spend the whole game exploring, each world takes place in a completely different location. So you'll be visiting a sandy mining colony on one level and a snowy ski chalet in another. So it adds some much appreciated variety, not only to the visuals of each environment. Each level looks very unique and different, but to the objectives that you have to complete also, like, having to activate a ski lift to try and get from one side of the level to the other. And of course, each level is filled with all sorts of spooky ghosts to suck up. To capture a ghost, you first need to stun it by blinding it with your flashlight. And then once it's stunned, you can use your vacuum to suck it up, pulling back on the analog stick to pull it in as the ghost tries to break free. It kind of feels like a fishing video game when you're capturing the ghosts. And the different types of ghosts add lots of variety to each of the encounters. One ghost might be wearing a mask or sunglasses, for example, meaning that the flashes don't affect them. So you have to suck those off of their head before being able to stun them. Another type might be able to sneak up behind you and scare you. And if you are trying to capture a ghost, it breaks your hold on that ghost that you're trying to capture. There's lots of different types of ghosts, and it really keeps all the battles fun and exciting. And you'll also have some other tricks to use, both in the combat as well as some of the puzzle solving, which is a lot of fun. In addition to your vacuum, which can suck things up and blow out air, you'll get a cool black light, which you can use to reveal invisible items hidden around the environment or ghosts too that are invisible. And you can also use your flashlight not only to stun the ghost, but the flash can activate computers and terminals around the level, or these little robot bombs that once you flash, they will chase you around and explode. The game, it just has a really good balance of abilities and variety of ghosts that just, it made it a lot of fun. And each level and each fight, it just all felt interesting every time. One of my favorite things about the game, though, is honestly the personality. Luigi, he's just a hoot in these games. I love him. He's got this charming and funny attitude, as he'll do this little dorky celebratory dance after beating a level, or the way he shakes in fear when he finds a new scary spirit. I read recently that apparently the developers watched a lot of Mr. Bean episodes to get the feel for Luigi, and I can totally see that in the way that he acts. It's so much fun. This series has always had a great vibe that, rides that line between trying to be spooky and also silly. It's got lots of collectibles to find, fun boss battles, and it's also got a multiplayer mode, which I haven't yet jumped into, but it does sound like a good time, and I'm guessing that my wife and I will probably have a lot of fun with. Now, if you've played the original on the 3DS and, you've still got that sitting on your shelf, is it worth dropping $60 for? I don't know. It's definitely more a remaster than a ground up remake. It's not the Thousand Year Door where they did everything from scratch. So, it honestly might depend on how much you really love that game, if you played it the first time around. But for someone like me who is going in brand new, I think it definitely is. And if there are more 3D games that are as fun as this, I would welcome more HD updates in the future. And thank you to Nintendo for providing me with a copy of the game for coverage on the show. So last week, I ended up recording the show a day early on Tuesday night because I had just found out that I was going to be having surgery the next day. And as entertaining as the show might have been if I recorded it that night while I was on OxyContin, I thought it might not be a great idea. I made it nearly 50 years on this planet before having to have my first ever surgery. And I was pretty proud of that accomplishment. I've been fairly healthy most of my life. But this past week has further proven my theory that once you turn 40, your body completely goes to crap. So this was done due to a complication to the medical issues that I have been struggling with since April. But honestly, the surgery wasn't that bad. It was actually way better than their attempt to fix the issue in the clinic. I don't know how many of you have ever had, serious gastrointestinal issues before. But if you've never had multiple injections in your rectal area, I do not recommend it. I do not. I gave that place 0 stars on Yelp. No, not okay. And it didn't even work. So surgery it was. And at the hospital, they gave me a nice cocktail to send me off to dreamland. They sliced and diced my nether regions, and a few hours later, I was back home. Crazy. It's amazing how they can do that same day these days. It's just not that huge of a deal. So I got another week off of work while I'm healing, and hopefully my medical problems start to ease up, because it has been 3 months of this, and I am just a little bit over it. And seriously, again, if they ever give you the option of surgery or a needle in the old exhaust pipe, just tell them to take you straight to the OR. Last week's question for polling at Threads was, how do you play most of your video games? And this one wasn't even close. 87% of you play your games alone, solo, single player, and only 9% of you spend most of your time playing online multiplayer games. That surprised me a little. I thought that'd be a little higher. 2% play on the couch with friends and family, couch co-op games, and just a measly 1% of you play most of your games while streaming them on platforms like Twitch. Turns out you're all a bunch of loners. So for this week's question, in honor of the upcoming opening ceremonies, I want to know, which do you prefer, the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics? One's got swimming and gymnastics and track and field, and the other has skiing and snowboarding and the luge. I know I have my preferences. So go visit Midlife SideQuest on Threads after the show to cast your vote, and I will share the results on next week's episode. Thank you so very much for listening to Midlife Side Quest. I appreciate you taking time in your day to hang out with me. You can catch a new episode of the show every Thursday morning wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review while you're there. And you can follow me on Threads by looking for Midlife Side Quest if you'd like to chat after the show. So until next week, be well and happy gaming.